Clara often found solace in the familiar fabric of her father's military jacket, the way it enveloped her in warmth as she navigated the tumultuous waters of high school life. The jacket, a deep olive green adorned with faded patches and a few frayed edges, was more than just a piece of clothing. It was a tangible connection to a man she had lost far too soon. Whenever she slipped it on, she felt his presence beside her, guiding her through the challenges of adolescence. It became her armor, shielding her from the uncertainties that often loomed in the hallways of her school, where whispers and laughter lingered like shadows. Today, as Clara strolled into the bustling diner with her friends, the jacket's weight was both comforting and exhilarating. She reveled in the camaraderie of her small circle, their laughter ringing like a melody that brightened the otherwise ordinary afternoon. The smell of frying bacon and freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, wrapping around them like a warm embrace, inviting them to indulge in the simple pleasures of life. Clara's heart swelled with gratitude for these moments, the camaraderie, the laughter, and the shared stories that filled the diner with life. Settling into a booth by the window, she scanned the menu, her stomach rumbling in anticipation. Clara's friends chattered excitedly about their latest school projects and weekend plans, their voices overlapping in a joyful chorus. Amidst the playful banter, Clara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps today would be a day free from the shadows of grief that sometimes clouded her thoughts. She could already envision the warm slice of pie she would savor, a sweet reward for her diligence in schoolwork. But just as the warmth of the moment enveloped her, a chill swept through the diner. An uninvited tension crept in as a man, a stranger with a hardened expression, approached their table. Clara could feel the shift in the atmosphere, her heart quickening as a wave of apprehension washed over her. The man's eyes narrowed as he locked onto her jacket, his voice rising above the hum of conversations, dripping with disdain. "What are you doing wearing that? You think it's funny to flaunt stolen valor?" He spat, his words sharp like shards of glass cutting through the jovial ambience. The laughter around them dissipated, replaced by a stunned silence as the reality of the situation began to sink in. Clara's cheeks flushed crimson, her heart racing not from embarrassment, but from an instinctive desire to defend the memory of her father. "Excuse me," she stammered, her voice trembling as she struggled to articulate her thoughts. "This jacket belonged to my dad. He was a soldier." Her words hung in the air, a fragile plea for understanding that seemed to bounce off the walls without finding purchase. The man's scornful laughter echoed, drowning her voice as he continued his tirade. "Yeah, right? You're just playing dress-up, pretending to be something you're not. Show some respect." He sneered, his tone laced with mockery that stung deeper than any physical blow. Clara's friends shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes wide with disbelief and confusion. They had seen Clara wear the jacket countless times, had heard her stories about her father's bravery. Yet here was a stranger attempting to strip her of her dignity in the most public way possible. As Clara's heart sank, the warmth she had felt moments before seemed to recede, leaving a cold emptiness in its wake. The diner, once a haven of laughter and comfort, now felt like a cage, the walls closing in as she fought against the waves of humiliation crashing over her. Her fingers tightened around the fabric of the jacket, the familiar texture grounding her amidst the chaos. She thought of her father, of the sacrifices he had made, and how proud he would have been of her for wearing his jacket, for honoring his memory. Just when Clara thought the situation couldn't get worse, an unexpected voice broke through the tension in the room. "Hey, that's enough." It was a voice filled with authority and compassion, resonating with the weight of experience. An older gentleman, his silver hair glinting in the diner's light, rose from a nearby table where he had been sitting quietly. His presence commanded attention, the air shifting with the collective gaze of diners turning towards him. Frank, a veteran who had seen the horrors of war and lived to tell the tales, stepped forward. He walked with a slight limp, a testament to the battles he had fought, both in combat and in life. Clara's heart raced as she recognized the determination in his eyes, a glimmer of hope igniting within her as he faced the man who had accosted her. "I knew her father," Frank declared, his voice steady and unwavering. The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them like a heavy blanket. Clara felt the warmth of his presence enveloping her, a shield against the venom that had been directed her way. He was a hero, and he sacrificed everything for this country. You have no idea what you're talking about. The man's bravado faltered, the sneer slipping from his face as he met Frank's unwavering gaze. Clara felt the tide of the atmosphere shift, the collective energy in the diner transforming as the crowd began to rally around her. It was as if Frank's words had ignited a fire within them, a sense of justice rising to the surface, and the murmurs of support began to ripple through the space. "Leave her alone!" Someone shouted from the back of the diner, followed by a chorus of agreement. "You don't know what you're saying." Clara's heart swelled with gratitude as she felt the support of strangers surrounding her, their voices rising in solidarity. In that moment, the shame that had threatened to consume her began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound strength ignited by Frank's unwavering defense. She looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and he nodded reassuringly, a silent promise that she was not alone in this battle. The crowd's energy enveloped her, a shield forged in shared humanity and compassion, and she could feel the weight of her father's legacy lifting her, transforming her heartache into resilience. As the man stumbled backward, his bravado shattered by the collective force of the diner's patrons, Clara realized that even in the darkest moments, there existed an undeniable power in unity. It was a reminder that love could transcend judgment, that the bonds of shared experience could forge connections deeper than the pain of loss. With each voice raised in her defense, Clara felt her father's spirit beside her, a guiding light illuminating her path forward, reminding her that she was indeed a soldier's daughter, and that legacy would forever shine brightly through her. As the tension in the diner began to ebb, the air thick with the remnants of righteous indignation and solidarity, Clara felt an unfamiliar sensation blooming within her, a blend of gratitude and empowerment. The once ominous presence of the man who had accosted her now felt like an echo fading into the background, overshadowed by the warmth of the community rallying around her. She glanced at Frank, who stood resolute, embodying the very essence of strength and honor. His presence was a balm to her wounded spirit, igniting a flicker of hope that had long been overshadowed by grief. The din of the diner returned slowly, a waterfall of conversations cascading around her as people resumed their meals and laughter, albeit with a renewed vibrancy. Clara's friends, who had initially been paralyzed by shock, now surrounded her, their expressions a mix of admiration and concern. "Are you okay?" Hannah, her closest friend, asked, her voice laced with sincerity. Clara nodded, though her throat felt tight, overwhelmed by the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. I didn't expect that," Clara managed to say, her gaze drifting back to Frank, who had returned to his table, a gentle smile playing on his lips. It was a smile that suggested understanding, a shared history that transcended the boundaries of their age or experience. Clara felt a connection to him, drawn by the knowledge that he recognized the weight of her father's legacy, the sacrifice that had been made in service of something greater than themselves. As she turned back to her friends, she couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was a pivotal moment, a turning point that would ripple through her life in ways she had yet to comprehend. The warmth of the diner, once a comforting blanket, now felt electric, charged with a sense of purpose. "Let's go talk to him," Clara said suddenly, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. "What? Who?" Hannah asked, her brow furrowed. "Frank, the veteran. I want to thank him," Clara replied, her heart racing as she gestured toward the table where Frank sat, sipping his coffee. The thought of expressing her gratitude felt important, a way to honor both her father and the unexpected ally who had stood up for her in a moment of vulnerability. Without waiting for her friends to respond, Clara slid out of the booth, determined to bridge the gap between them. She walked with a newfound confidence, a resilience that felt almost foreign yet exhilarating. As she approached Frank's table, she noticed the way he looked up at her, his eyes, a deep pool of understanding, reflected the burdens of his past, the stories etched in the lines of his face. "Excuse me, Frank," Clara began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I just wanted to say thank you for what you did back there. You really stood up for me." Frank placed his coffee cup down, his expression softening as he regarded her. "It was nothing really, just doing what's right," he replied, his voice warm and reassuring. "Your father was a good man. I served with him, and he always had the back of everyone in his unit. It's an honor to see you wearing that jacket." Clara felt a wave of emotion wash over her at his words. "I wear it to remember him, to keep his spirit alive. I never thought I'd be confronted like that for it," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Frank nodded knowingly, his gaze unwavering. People can be quick to judge, especially when they don't understand the sacrifices that come with service. But don't let them dim your light. You carry his legacy with you, and that's something to be proud of. His words resonated deeply within her, igniting a flicker of strength that dispelled the lingering shadows of doubt. Clara felt a sense of kinship with him, a shared understanding born from the complexities of loss and resilience. "I know he would have been proud of me," she said, the certainty in her voice surprising even herself. "But sometimes it's hard to remember that when people challenge you." Frank leaned back slightly, his posture relaxed yet attentive. "It's natural to feel that way. Just remember, Clara, your father's courage lives on in you. You have a voice, and it matters. Use it to tell your story, to honor his memory in ways that resonate with others." As Clara absorbed his words, she felt a sense of purpose beginning to crystallize within her. She had always harbored a desire to share her father's story, to shed light on the realities of service and sacrifice, but fear had often held her back. The confrontation in the diner had awakened something dormant, a spark of determination that she now realized she couldn't ignore. "I want to do more," she confessed, her heart pounding with the weight of her unspoken aspirations. "I want to share my father's story, to honor him and help others understand the sacrifices made by soldiers and their families. I just don't know where to start." Frank's eyes twinkled with encouragement. "Start right here. Share your story with those around you. You'd be surprised how many people want to listen. And if you ever want to do more, speak at schools or community events, let me know. I can help you connect with organizations that support veterans and their families." Clara felt a rush of gratitude surge through her. The thought of being able to honor her father's legacy in a meaningful way filled her with excitement. "Thank you, Frank. That means so much to me," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I can't believe I was so afraid to speak out before. But now, it feels like I have a purpose." As they spoke, Clara's friends had approached, curiosity evident in their expressions. Hannah stepped forward, her eyes wide. "What's going on? Are we starting a support group or something?" She joked lightly, but Clara could see the genuine interest in her friend's eyes. "Just having a conversation about courage and legacy," Frank replied, his voice warm. "It's important for young people like you to realize the impact you can have. Sharing stories can change lives." Clara felt a surge of pride swell within her as she looked at her friends, their support a comforting reminder that she wasn't alone in this journey. "I think I'm going to start sharing my story," she declared, her heart racing with possibility. "I want to honor my dad and help others understand what it means to be part of a military family." Hannah beamed at her, clearly impressed. "That's amazing, Clara. I'll help you. We can plan something together." The enthusiasm in her voice was infectious, and Clara felt the weight of her earlier humiliation lifting, replaced by a sense of purpose and excitement. As they gathered around Frank's table, the small group began to brainstorm ideas, their voices mingling in a symphony of hope and determination. Frank listened, occasionally offering suggestions, but mostly encouraging Clara to share her own thoughts and feelings. It was a powerful moment of connection, the kind that reminded her of the strength found in community. And so, amidst the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation, a new chapter began to unfold in Clara's life. The diner, which had once felt like a battleground, transformed into a sanctuary of support and understanding. Clara realized that while the shadows of grief might always linger, they could also coexist with the light of resilience and hope. the legacy of a soldier's daughter, ready to take her place in the world and honor her father's memory in ways that would resonate far beyond the walls of that small-town diner. As Clara basked in the newfound energy of the diner, she felt the warmth of her friends and the supportive presence of Frank enveloping her like a comforting embrace. The conversations around their table flowed freely, an exchange of ideas mingling with laughter and encouragement. Clara's heart swelled with appreciation for the community that had stepped forward in her moment of need, transforming an experience of humiliation into one of empowerment. "Maybe we could organize a community event," Clara suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. "Something that honors veterans and their families, where we can share stories and raise awareness about the sacrifices they make." The idea felt exhilarating, each word igniting a spark of inspiration within her. Hannah leaned in, her enthusiasm palpable. "That's a fantastic idea, Clara. We could invite other veterans, families, and even local schools. It would be a great way to bring people together and create a space for healing and understanding." Frank nodded in agreement, his eyes twinkling with pride. "You're onto something important, Clara. Community events can bridge the gap between those who serve and those they serve. Sharing these stories can foster empathy and appreciation. It can help people understand the realities of military life." Encouraged by Frank's words, Clara felt a rush of determination surge within her. She envisioned a gathering filled with laughter, camaraderie, and shared stories, a celebration of resilience that honored her father's legacy and the sacrifices of so many. "We could have booths with information about support organizations, perhaps even a panel where veterans share their stories. It could be a day of remembrance and education." "Let's call it Honoring Our Heroes," Hannah chimed in, her excitement infectious. "We can create flyers, spread the word on social media, and reach out to local businesses for sponsorships. This could be huge." Clara's heart raced at the prospect of turning her vision into reality. The fear that had once gripped her began to dissipate, replaced by a powerful sense of purpose. "I want to involve my school too," she added, her thoughts racing. "We can encourage students to participate, perhaps even arrange for a school assembly focused on the importance of understanding military service and the families behind the uniforms." As the conversation flowed, an air of camaraderie enveloped their small group, the diner transforming into a hub of creativity and collaboration. Clara felt invigorated, her previous doubts melting away as she realized that she wasn't alone in her desire to honor her father. The notion of sharing their stories, creating a space for connection, and fostering understanding was a mission that resonated with everyone around the table. In the midst of their brainstorming, Clara glanced around the diner, taking in the faces of people who had witnessed her ordeal. She noticed nods of approval and encouraging smiles from fellow diners, their expressions reflecting a shared sense of unity. It was a moment of transformation, one that illuminated the importance of community and empathy. Time seemed to blur as ideas flowed, and laughter punctuated their discussions. Clara's friends began to sketch out plans, creating a timeline for the event and listing potential speakers. Frank shared his own experiences, recounting stories of camaraderie among veterans and the healing power of shared narratives. Clara listened intently, absorbing every word, her resolve solidifying with each passing moment. As the afternoon turned into evening, the diner began to empty, the rush of lunchtime patrons giving way to the quieter hours. Yet, Clara felt an electric energy pulsing through her, a sense of hope that had blossomed amidst the chaos. She could envision the event taking shape, the community coming together to honor those who had served, and perhaps even mending the wounds that came with loss. "I can't believe how much we've accomplished in just one afternoon," Clara said, her voice filled with excitement. "This is going to be amazing." Frank smiled, his pride evident. "You have a gift for bringing people together, Clara. Your father would be proud of you for turning this experience into something positive. It's a testament to his legacy." Clara's heart swelled at the thought, a mixture of pride and gratitude washing over her. She knew that her father's spirit lived on in her, and each step she took to honor him felt like a tribute to the love they had shared. The jacket she wore, once a mere keepsake, now felt imbued with purpose, a symbol of resilience and strength. As they wrapped up their discussion, Clara felt a renewed sense of connection with her friends. They had weathered a storm together, faced hostility, and emerged stronger on the other side. "I couldn't have done this without you all," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "Thank you for believing in me." Hannah reached across the table, a supportive smile on her face. "We're in this together, Clara. Always." With plans taking shape and a sense of community bubbling at the surface, Clara left the diner that day with a heart full of hope and a mind brimming with possibilities. The world outside felt different, illuminated by the promise of change and the collective strength of those around her. As the sun began to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the small town, Clara walked home lost in thought. The events of the day, why replayed in her mind? The confrontation, frank support, and the blossoming idea of the community event. Each moment had woven together to create a tapestry of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, hope could flourish. Arriving home, Clara hung her father's jacket on the back of her chair, a gesture that felt both reverent and empowering. She took a moment to breathe, allowing the warmth of the day to wash over her. The walls of her room, once a refuge of solitude, now felt like a sanctuary filled with purpose. Sitting at her desk, Clara opened her notebook and began to jot down her thoughts. The pages filled quickly as she poured out her emotions, capturing the essence of her father's legacy and the importance of community. She wanted to articulate the stories of those who had served, to shed light on the sacrifices made not just by soldiers, but by their families, the unsung heroes who often remained in the shadows. Each word felt like a step toward honoring her father, a way to keep his spirit alive while also creating a space for others to share their experiences. The act of writing became cathartic, a release that allowed her to reflect on her journey and the strength she had discovered within herself. As the evening wore on, Clara's thoughts began to crystallize into a vision of a community united in remembrance, a space where stories could be shared and connections forged. She envisioned families coming together to celebrate their loved ones, to share laughter and tears, and to foster understanding across generations. With each stroke of her pen, Clara felt a sense of clarity taking shape. The shadow of fear that had once loomed over her began to dissipate, replaced by the light of possibility. She could see it now. Honoring our heroes would be more than just an event. It would be a movement, a chance to bridge the gap between those who served and those who supported them. In the days that followed, Clara devoted herself to the planning of the event. She reached out to Frank for guidance, who became a mentor in her journey, introducing her to local veteran organizations and helping her navigate the logistics of organizing a community gathering. Clara's friends rallied around her, eager to contribute their ideas and energy, and together they began to assemble a tapestry of support that grew stronger with each passing day. Word of the event spread rapidly through social media, igniting curiosity and interest within the community. Local businesses began to offer sponsorships, eager to support a cause that resonated with so many. Clara felt a swell of pride as she watched people come together, united by a shared purpose, to honor the sacrifices made by veterans and their families. As the date of the event approached, Clara felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was not just an opportunity to share her father's story. It was a chance to create a platform for others, to foster understanding and empathy in a world that often felt divided. She wanted to ensure that every voice was heard, that each story was valued, and that the legacy of those who served would be celebrated with the dignity it deserved. On the day of the event, Clara arrived early, her heart pounding with anticipation. The park was alive with energy as volunteers set up booths, arranged chairs, and decorated the space with banners that read, "Honoring Our Heroes." The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, the air thick with the mingling sense of food trucks and the sound of laughter echoing through the trees. Clara took a moment to breathe, looking around at the community that had come together in support of one another. She felt her father's spirit beside her, a gentle reminder that love and resilience could conquer even the darkest of moments. With renewed determination, she stepped forward to greet the guests as they began to arrive, her heart swelling with gratitude for the outpouring of support. As the event unfolded, Clara felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. People shared their stories of service, the sacrifices made by veterans and their families, and the bonds forged in the crucible of war. The panel discussions resonated with honesty, the audience captivated by the raw emotions and shared experiences. Clara took the stage, her heart racing as she looked out at the sea of faces. She felt a surge of courage, a connection to the legacy her father had left behind. Speaking from her heart, she shared her journey, the pain of loss, the strength found in community, and the importance of honoring those who had served. In that moment, as she spoke about her father and the love he had for his family and country, Clara felt the weight of her grief transforming into a celebration of life. She could see the impact of her words reflected in the faces around her, nodding heads, tears glistening in eyes, and a palpable sense of connection that floated through the crowd like a gentle breeze. Clara poured her heart into her speech, recounting not just the facts of her father's service, but the essence of who he was as a father, a soldier, and a man of honor. Each word felt like a tribute, a way to weave his spirit into the very fabric of the event. "My dad always believed in the power of community," she began, her voice steadying with each syllable. "He used to say that no one should face their burdens alone. He fought for our freedom, not just on the battlefield, but within our hearts and homes. Wearing his jacket is a way for me to carry his legacy forward. It's a reminder that love and sacrifice go hand in hand." As Clara spoke, she noticed how the crowd leaned in closer, their expressions shifting from curiosity to deep empathy. The silence that enveloped the park was one of reverence, a collective understanding that her father's story was more than just her own. It was a reflection of countless others who had faced similar losses and challenges. "I know many of you here have stories of your own," she continued, her gaze sweeping across the audience. "Stories of fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, loved ones who served and who, too, deserve to be remembered. Today is not just about my dad. It's about all of them. It's about honoring their sacrifices and acknowledging the families who stood by them, often in silence." Clara's voice trembled slightly as she shared her most vulnerable feelings. The night spent wondering if her father was safe, the moments of joy when he came home, and the profound sorrow of his absence. The audience was captivated, their hearts echoing her sentiments. She spoke of the resilience she had seen in herself and others, how they had learned to navigate life's complexities while carrying the weight of loss. As she finished her speech, a wave of applause erupted, echoing through the park like a sudden summer rain. Clara felt her cheeks flush with a mix of surprise and gratitude. It was a moment of connection, a testament to the power of shared experiences and the healing that could arise from vulnerability. After stepping off the stage, Clara was enveloped in hugs from her friends, their voices overlapping in excitement and pride. Frank approached her, his eyes shining with approval. "That was beautiful, Clara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You captured the essence of what it means to honor a soldier. You have a gift for storytelling." "Thank you, Frank," Clara replied, her heart swelling at his praise. "I couldn't have done it without your support. I feel so much lighter now, like I've finally begun to share my father's story with the world." As the event continued, the park came alive with laughter, music, and the sounds of families sharing their own stories. Booths dotted the landscape, each one representing a different facet of the military experience. Local veterans organizations, support services for families, and resources for mental health. Clara wandered from booth to booth, soaking in the camaraderie that enveloped the space. Each interaction felt like a thread weaving her deeper into the fabric of community, a tapestry rich with stories of bravery, resilience, and love. Clara listened intently as veterans shared their experiences, recounting tales of camaraderie and sacrifice, while families spoke of their journeys through grief and healing. One woman, a widow of a fallen soldier, shared her story with Clara, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I wasn't sure I could go on without him," she admitted, her eyes glistening. "But I realized that I carry his spirit with me. He would want me to live fully, to honor his memory by embracing life, just as he embraced his duty. Clara felt her heart resonate with the woman's words. It was a reminder that while loss was a part of their stories, so too was love and the strength that came from sharing their experiences. She smiled at the woman, grateful for the connection forged in that moment. Your strength is inspiring. Thank you for sharing that with me. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Clara gathered her friends and Frank for a group photo, a snapshot of a day filled with purpose and connection. They huddled together, smiles wide and hearts full, capturing the essence of what had transpired. An event that would not only honor the past, but also pave the way for future generations to understand the sacrifices made by those who served. Later that evening, as Clara sat with her friends, reflecting on the day, she felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything she had ever experienced. The event had been a success, but more importantly, it had reignited a passion within her, a desire to continue sharing her father's story and advocating for those who had served. I want to keep this going, Clara said, her voice filled with determination. I want to create a platform where veterans and families can share their stories regularly, not just once a year. Hannah's eyes sparkled with excitement. We can start a blog or a community group. There are so many people who would want to be involved. Frank nodded in agreement. You have the momentum now, Clara. Continue to build on it. Your voice has the power to inspire change and foster understanding. As the night settled in and the stars began to twinkle overhead, Clara felt a sense of peace enveloping her. She had transformed a moment of humiliation into a powerful reminder of resilience and community. The weight of her father's legacy now felt like a guiding light, illuminating her path forward. She was ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead, fueled by the support of her friends, the community, and the memory of the man who had taught her the true meaning of courage. Clara lay in bed that night, the events of the day replaying in her mind like a beautiful dream. She thought of her father's jacket draped over the chair, a symbol of love, sacrifice, and the journey she was embarking on. She closed her eyes, feeling a sense of hope and purpose wash over her. This was just the beginning, an awakening of her spirit, a call to action that would shape her future and honor the legacy of those who had served. The next chapter awaited, and Clara was ready to write it. The days that followed the event were a whirlwind of activity and inspiration for Clara. With the support of her friends and Frank, she began laying the groundwork for the community platform she had envisioned. They brainstormed ideas, created social media pages, and even organized a series of follow-up gatherings to keep the momentum alive. Clara felt a rush of exhilaration as she saw her dreams materializing into something tangible, a space where stories could be shared and honored. One afternoon, while sitting at her desk, surrounded by colorful posters and notes, Clara received a message from a local high school teacher named Mr. Jenkins. He had heard about the Honoring Our Heroes event and wanted to collaborate on a project that would engage students in learning about military service and the sacrifices of veterans. Clara's heart raced with excitement. This could be the perfect opportunity to reach her peers and involve the younger generation in the conversation. Absolutely. I'd love to work together, Clara replied, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She suggested organizing a series of workshops where students could interview veterans, create presentations, and even write letters to service members. Mr. Jenkins responded enthusiastically, and plans began to take shape for a school-wide initiative that would not only educate students but also foster a sense of gratitude and appreciation for those who served. As the weeks rolled on, Clara found herself immersed in a world of storytelling and connection. She reached out to veterans in the community, inviting them to share their experiences at both the school and her newly formed community group. With each story shared, Clara felt a sense of purpose deepening within her. She was not just honoring her father's legacy. She was creating a ripple effect of understanding and empathy that reached far beyond her own grief. One evening, Clara and her friends gathered in her living room, surrounded by notes and plans for the upcoming workshops. They were brainstorming ideas for the event, which would culminate in a presentation day where students could showcase what they had learned. What if we made it a competition? Hannah suggested, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. We could have prizes for the best presentations like gift cards to local businesses or even a feature in the town newsletter. I love that idea, Clara exclaimed. It would motivate more students to participate and really dive into their projects. Plus, it would bring the community together again. As they continued to plan, Clara felt a sense of exhilaration wash over her. She was witnessing the power of collective effort, how a small idea could grow and inspire others to engage in meaningful conversation. The thought of students interacting with veterans, learning about their experiences, and crafting presentations that honored their stories filled her with hope. The day of the workshops arrived, and Clara stood at the front of the classroom, her heart pounding with anticipation. The room buzzed with energy as students filed in, some curious and eager, others hesitant. She welcomed them with a warm smile, sharing her own story and the inspiration behind the project. Today is about learning and connecting, Clara said, her voice steady. You'll meet some incredible veterans who have dedicated their lives to serving our country, and I encourage you to ask questions, listen, and truly understand what their experiences mean. As the veterans began sharing their stories, Clara watched the students' expressions transform. The room filled with laughter, tears, and moments of reflection as the past came alive through personal narratives. She moved from group to group, engaging with both the veterans and students, feeling the connections growing stronger with each shared story. After the workshops concluded, Clara felt a wave of satisfaction wash over her. She knew they had created something special, a bridge between generations, a space where stories could be respected and honored. The students left the classroom buzzing with ideas, and Clara couldn't help but smile, knowing that the seeds of empathy had been planted. In the weeks that followed, Clara and her friends worked tirelessly to prepare for the presentation day. They secured a venue, gathered prizes, and promoted the event throughout the school and community. Clara felt a blend of excitement and nervousness as the day approached, but she reminded herself of the purpose behind it all, the chance to honor veterans and their families while fostering understanding among her peers. Finally, the day arrived. Clara walked into the auditorium, her heart racing as she took in the sight of the decorations and the buzz of anticipation in the air. Families, veterans, and students filled the seats, their chatter creating a warm atmosphere of community. As the presentations began, Clara felt a swell of pride. Each student shared their projects with passion and sincerity, recounting the stories they had learned and the lessons they had taken to heart. Clara listened intently, her heart swelling with pride for her peers and the veterans whose lives had touched them. When it was her turn to speak, Clara felt the familiar rush of emotions. She stepped onto the stage, taking a deep breath as she looked out at the audience. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steadying. "This project has been a labor of love, and it has reminded me of the strength that can be found in sharing our stories. Each of you has the power to honor those who have served, not just today, but every day by recognizing their sacrifices and the families who support them." As Clara spoke, she could see her father's spirit beside her, guiding her through the moment. The audience listened intently, their expressions a mix of admiration and respect. Clara felt a powerful connection to everyone in that room, a community united by shared values and experiences. When the final presentation concluded, applause erupted, echoing through the auditorium like thunder. Clara felt tears prick at her eyes, overwhelmed by the support and love surrounding her. The event had been a success, a true testament to the power of storytelling and the importance of community. As the evening wound down, Clara was approached by several veterans and families who expressed their gratitude for the initiative. One veteran, a man with a weathered face and kind eyes, approached her. "You've done something very special here, young lady," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've given us a voice and reminded us that our stories matter." Clara felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. "Thank you for your service," she replied sincerely. "I'm just so grateful we could share these stories together." As the crowd began to disperse, Clara stood with her friends, reflecting on the day's events. They had created something meaningful, a space where stories could be shared, celebrated, and honored. The journey had been challenging, But every obstacle had been worth it for this moment of connection. In the weeks that followed, Clara continued to advocate for veterans and their families, organizing regular meetings for her community group and expanding their outreach initiatives. She became a voice for those who had served, using her platform to educate others and foster understanding. Throughout it all, Clara wore her father's jacket with pride. It was no longer just a keepsake. It had become a symbol of resilience, love, and the power of community. Every time she slipped it on, she felt a surge of strength, a reminder that she was carrying forward a legacy of courage and sacrifice. As Clara looked toward the future, she felt a sense of purpose that resonated deeply within her. She was committed to ensuring that the stories of veterans and their families would never fade into silence. The world needed to hear these narratives, to understand the complexities of service and sacrifice, and to honor those who had given so much. In her heart, Clara knew this was just the beginning. She was ready to embrace the challenges ahead, fueled by the love of her father and the unwavering support of her community. Together, they would continue to share these stories, inspire change, and honor the heroes who had shaped their lives. Clara was not just a soldier's daughter. She was a storyteller, an advocate, and a beacon of hope in a world that needed it more than ever.